Well, hello YouTubers. I'm back again and gonna play around with my forge some more. I had a duh moment, and I did a little rebuild on it. I had a problem with the original refractory insulation I put in it, made out of perlite melting down at the temperatures of brass melt, and I relined it with vermiculite. A vermiculite-based refractory, and that worked a little better. I have to say, I made it through an entire brass pour with the vermiculite, but I could see it wasn't going to last. It was starting to turn into a sort of very pretty blue-green glass and starting to sag and slump too. Held up better than the perlite, but it was not a long-term solution. So I was thinking about my options when I had a big duh moment, and I realized, hey, I've got a bunch of ceramic fiber insulation in a box in the garage. Why am I not using it? So I relined the Foundry with the fiber insulation. Several different brand names for this stuff. Innswool is one of them. And This works great. I did a test firing yesterday, and not only did the Foundry heat up a lot quicker than it did with the other types of insulation, it suffered no damage that I could see. Held the heat in a lot better, and this just works great. So the only problem I have is that this stuff here is pretty thick, and it makes the central well of the Foundry kind of narrow, which makes it hard for me to get my my tongs in and out for putting in and taking out the crucible. So this is cold right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt down some more bullet casings and cast some more bronze ingots. And it's a nice cool morning in February here in Florida, so it's a good time to fire up the Foundry because things are about to get hot. That's something I really want to do in the summertime if I can avoid it. So let me fill up the crucible with some brass. Oh, and I've also been experimenting with fluxes, and I found that a teaspoon or so of borax is a wonderful thing as a flux for bronze. The dross turns into this gray, glassy liquid glass that floats on top of the surface and is easily skimmed off, and almost no bronze remains in the dross. It's a beautiful thing. It works great. So let me fill up the crucible with bullet casings, top it off with a little bit of borax, and we'll get it in the Foundry and get it lit up, and I'll show you the whole process. Hang on. Okay, here's the crucible, full to overflowing with bullet casings, topped off with like a heaping teaspoon of borax. I'm not sure about the exact amount of borax I need to use. I may have used a little bit too much on my test run the other day, so I'm going to try a little less today and see if it still works good. It really did a good thing with the dross, so we'll see how it goes today with a little bit less borax. So it's ready to go in. I've got a plinth in the bottom. I don't know if you can see it there, made of a piece of kiln brick to keep the crucible up off the bottom of the Foundry, so that the air can swirl around it from the bottom all the way up to the top. Now, I had the gas pressure set just perfectly the other day with my test run, so I should just be able to turn the gas on at the tank and everything should work good. Let me set the camera down and get the Foundry lit. Well, I hope you can hear me okay. The yard crews are out in force today, running blowers and trimmers and mowers all over the neighborhood, so I hope you hear me okay. Anyway, let me light my torch here. And I'm going to turn on the gas. So the Foundry is lit. Put my welding gloves on. I remembered my welding gloves this time, and for my test run the other day, and I'll talk a little bit more about safety equipment in a second. Let me get the lid on. The lid is lined with the same fiber material. Keeps the refractory inside the lid from melting. Works pretty good. All right, now that's going to heat up fairly quickly. You can time it actually, so I can tell you how long it took. It's 9:03 now. Safety equipment. Okay, again, I'm covered head to toe, or at least I will be. Once things start getting hot, I'll put the face mask on, the full face shield. I got my welding gloves here, thick leather that go way up my arms. I've got denim jacket on, or denim shirt on. I've got denim pants on, and I've got leather boots. Don't wear tennis shoes. If you've ever done any welding in tennis shoes and had a ball of slag land on your shoe, melt right through the canvas and lodge between your toes, you know what it's like. Wear leather, and you know, if I spill any metal, it's going to go skittering all over the ground, and some of it will land on my shoes. I don't want it melting through. Leather would be better. I've ordered a nice leather apron from Amazon, but it hasn't arrived yet. So once that gets here, I'll be wearing a leather apron over all this, just to protect me from any splashing metal. And then we'll go through some of the other equipment I've got over here when it comes time to use it. So it's going to take a while for this to heat up, but with the new fiber insulation, it's not going to take that long at all. It heated up real quick the other day on my test run, so hopefully we'll be up and melting soon. And the heat coming out of there is just amazing. Wow. Let me take a break and I'll show you when it gets hot. Okay, it's been 7 minutes. Things are heating up nicely. Whoa. Let me try and get, the wind keeps changing direction. Let me get upwind from the Foundry. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but the crucible is already glowing bright red. The bullet casings in it are glowing bright red. I gotta back up. Oh, that's hot. Yeah. Look at the shadow over there. Look at the heat coming out of that thing. So 7 minutes, it's already gotten that hot. The brass is going to start melting down pretty soon. Now, that crucible was full to overflowing when I put it in, but bullet casings are mostly empty space, so they're going to melt down to fill maybe the bottom third. There was a little bit of brass left over in the bottom of the crucible from my test melt, but it's going to fill maybe the bottom third of the crucible once it all melts down. So I've got some more bullets over here in a little pan. I'm gonna dump some more of those in once what's in there melts down some, and then I'll melt those down. So what I'll probably do is turn off the gas, take the lid off, reach in with my gloves on, and carefully dump those in the crucible. I don't want to miss the crucible and have them go down into the bottom of the Foundry. And then put the lid back on. I probably won't have to do anything but turn the gas back on. It's going to be hot enough; it'll probably refire itself instantly. If not, I've got my torch ready, and then melt those extra bullet casings down. And then once they're melted, it'll be time to pour some ingots over there in the biscuit pan. And I need to remember, and you need to remember if you're doing this too. Preheat your biscuit pan. If there's the least little bit of moisture in it, when that hot metal hits it, that is just going to be a steam explosion. It's going to blow metal all over you. So what I'll do is I'll put the biscuit pan on top of the lid of the Foundry for a minute or two and get it good and hot before I stop the melt and pull the crucible out and start pouring. So a lot can go wrong when you're dealing with metal that's almost 2,000 degrees. So you gotta remember all your safety precautions. Let's let it keep melting. Alright, I hope it's showing up on camera. I'm a little afraid for my camera. I've got my face mask on because of the heat coming out of there. The camera's getting the full brunt of it, but the casings have melted down quite a ways and are settling down to the bottom of the crucible. So it's about time to add more bullet casings to it. Okay, going to add more bullet casings. The first charge in the crucible melted down nicely. Turn off the gas. Open the lid. Oh yeah, nice liquid brass. Whoa, nice liquid brass in there. I'm not sure what that pop was. It could just been rapidly expanding air if one of the bullet casings got pushed under the liquid brass. I don't know. I'll put the lid back on and see if it'll refire itself when I turn the gas back on. It's still glowing pretty bright down there. I'll bet it will. Oh yeah. There we go. So I refilled the crucible back up to the top again. That's actually the last of my bullet casings for now. I need to collect some more the next time I go to the range. So we'll see how many ingots this makes. So it took about 15 minutes to melt that first charge. I bet it won't take near as long to melt this second charge because everything's already hot. The second charge of bullet casings is, that's hot, is melting down nicely, starting to settle to the bottom of the crucible. Won't be much longer, be ready to pour. Hope you can see that. I'm preheating my muffin tin mold and my spoon I use for skimming the dross. I just set them on top of the lid of the Foundry for a minute or so to burn out any moisture they may have in them, so there's no chance of a steam explosion once I'm ready to pour. Plenty hot by now, plenty dry. Oh yeah, that's hot. Okay, the second charge of bullet casings have melted. I'm going to leave it in there for another minute or so just to get it good and hot, because one problem I've had was the metal starting to solidify before I had it all poured out of the crucible. So I'm going to let it warm up a little bit. It took the second charge about 12 minutes to melt to this point. So that was quicker. Yeah, it looks like a nice puddle of brass in there. Okay, I think we're ready. Kill the gas. Put the lid off. Set it aside. Now here's the tricky part. Since I relined this, it's a little tougher to get the crucible in and out. Oh, my flint's stuck to the bottom of the crucible. Not sure why, but that's not a big deal. But you can see how this this Kong right here is used to get the crucible in and out. Just skim some dross off. There's actually not very much. Just a thin layer of glass floating on top of the molten metal. Now here's my tongs for gripping the crucible for pouring. Actually, okay, so I've got the crucible locked in there. Time to pour. There's one. So yeah, some of the brass hardened up in there. That's okay though. I got 3 good ingots. There's a little bit of the glassy dross floating on top of each one, but you know what? It'll break up when I hit it with a hammer once the metal hardens. So that was a successful pour. It didn't take very long at all. Didn't use that much gas. I love the new insulation that I got on the Foundry. Okay, here's a close-up of the ingots I just poured. So I got 3 good ones. Uh-oh, got a little bit of a grass fire going on down here. Oh well. Radiant heat from the hot ingots. There's some brass and dross left inside the crucible. Hope you can see that in the sunlight. That's okay. It'll remelt with the next melt. I'll probably take that little partial ingot and throw it in there and melt it all back down with another couple charges of bullet casings next time after I get some more. Here you can see the glassy dross floating on top of the solidifying metal. Man, that is hot. I need to back up a little bit. No wonder the grass is on fire. The heat coming off that is amazing. No damage to the Foundry. The fiber insulation is amazing. I'll dump those out in a couple minutes after they harden up a little more, and then quench them in water and give you a look at them. Well, here's the 3 full ingots I made from today's pour. They're a little dirtier than usual. They've got a lot of that dross glass stuck to them. Probably I could wire brush them and clean them up if I wanted to. I learned something. I think I'm still using too much borax for a flux because it did a good job, just like soldering flux. It allowed these things to solder themselves to the inside of the steel muffin tin. So it was a little difficult to get them out. So note to self in the future, do a better job of skimming off the dross and any remaining flux floating on top of the metal before pouring it into the muffin tin. So other than that, things went pretty well. It was a pretty quick pour. The new and improved Foundry is heating up real quick, using a lot less gas, and you know, it's amazingly cool on the outside. You know, that fiber is a great insulating material. What I will probably do, because I don't know how long this fiber is going to last, it gets abraded every time I open and close the Foundry, every time I put the crucible in and out. You know, it's going to fall apart. So what I'll probably do is I'll buy another roll of fiber, because I used all of it I had to reline this thing. And what I'll do probably is once this fiber wears out, I'll just chip out all of the old refractory that's in there and then reline it just with fiber and make the central opening a little bigger so I can get the crucible in and out easier. Man, there's still a lot of heat coming out of that thing. It's been off for a while. Back up a little bit. And just use the fiber alone as the lining, maybe some kiln bricks on the bottom. I've got a few broken kiln bricks around that can serve for that purpose on the bottom. And that should do it. I mean, this thing is working great. It heats up so quick. It's wonderful. And I need more bullet casings. I melted them all down. I've got about 10 or 12 pounds of brass ingots now. So this is great. These will remelt quick and clean, and I can use them to cast telescope parts. So things are working good. Thanks for watching. More later.